Whether on the go or at the table, get lost in a conversation about everything coffee with your host, Eric Ortiz.
Hi, and welcome to Everything Coffee, a podcast that brings in different people weekly from all walks of life to talk about everything coffee, of course. And today I am joined by Nathan Cabeen from Cabeens Coffee Corner, an online YouTube and Instagram personality that shares coffee reviews, coffee products, coffee education, everything coffee. We talked to Nathan about his journey in coffee, what drives his passion in the world, and future of growing into the YouTube and IG world. Very difficult, but he's managed to figure some of it out. You can visit Nathan online on IG and on YouTube at Cabeens Coffee Corner. That's Cabeens Coffee Corner, all one word. And ladies and gentlemen, Nathan Cabeen. Nathan, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We always talk to our guests beforehand when we started shows, and I was telling Nathan that I'm constantly looking for guests to bring onto the show and promote and just get them out there, because I think they have something amazing to offer. And on YouTube, I'm always searching on YouTube because I'm constantly looking for products, and shouldn't be. My wallet doesn't appreciate what I'm doing to it. But I definitely came across you on YouTube, and definitely was happy to have done so. You're doing some videos on YouTube. I went as far back and saw what you were doing, and you kind of started in Flare World. So tell me a little bit about where it all started and what you're doing, because you're on YouTube, you're on Instagram, you make videos as much as you possibly can, because gosh knows life, right? And that kind of gets in the way. So tell me a little bit about your beginning paths in terms of what you do.
Yeah, so I kind of just started with being newly married and kind of just trying to find the best ways to cut budgets and things like that by not going to coffee shops. So I was looking at getting basically the best value, cheapest espresso maker I could find, which at the time was the Flare espresso maker, and I didn't find any of the information that I was looking for, and a lot of the questions that I was looking to be answered just were very, very difficult to find. So I ended up purchasing a Flare, and a few months later, my friend got married about a year later, and we ended up gifting him the Flare while I upgraded to a different Flare. And I took both of those Flares that I had for about a week or two and just compared them side by side on YouTube, just to help people find the differences between the Flare Classic and the Flare Signature. They're pretty similar in a lot of ways, and I wanted to be able to give information that I couldn't find very well in a lot of places, and made that video, and it just did way better than I expected.
Sure.
And one of my friends suggested that maybe I should try to do a few more, and did another one similar with the Encore, where I upgraded the burst set on the inside, which also didn't have a lot of information out at the time and was kind of difficult to figure out how to do that process. And that one went well, and then just kind of went from there. And about a year and a half ago, I decided I was going to commit to a little bit more, and I pushed out a video every single week since last June, so June of 2021, I think, or June of 2020, a while ago anyway, and pushed out a video every single week on Fridays, just to kind of continue to push myself as being a creator, and continuing to push out content, and continue to come up with ideas rather than just becoming stagnant. So I've been making a video every week since. It's been a lot of work, but it's been a lot of fun over the past couple of years.
Kudos to you, because I'm in the YouTube world. I am, and I don't produce a video nearly every week. The goal was, back when the pandemic started, that when I first started with Java's Jaxie, which is the home base, and then we have everything.coffee.podcast on IG for this podcast. The whole goal was just to kind of getting into this, a hobby. It was a way to kind of get out. It's my zen for personal reasons and because of what I do in terms of my real life job. But it was a tough task, because I think YouTube has just been one of those monsters that you have to be consistent, I think, and that's what you're showing when you post weekly. But this all started like a whim for you, huh? It just you had a product, didn't have an answer, and you just felt like, well, why not just create the video myself? Yeah, absolutely. It was just kind of something I never really expected to do, and
something that a lot of people have told me that it's been beneficial for them, and it helped them make some of the decisions that they were making on some of the gear they purchased, and that just brought a lot of joy to me, and also just provided another fun hobby of getting an excuse to play with a bunch of coffee gear that I shouldn't really own all of it, but
none of us should own of it. None of us should own any of it. It's for anyone that's listening to it, and you're probably a coffee person, but for those that aren't, it is a very expensive hobby to be in. The equipment is not cheap. You know, even the least expensive machines out there are very costly. But I've seen you do a lot of product reviews. Besides the flare, you've gone into different realms. I saw you work on the niche. You're not a fan of the niche, are you?
Yeah, I ended up selling the niche. I just thought there's a new grinder out called the SD40 by Turian, and it's like $250 versus the $750-ish or $700 of the niche, and the niche is a little bit better, but not like $500 better. So
yeah, that law of diminishing returns comes in and kicks you in the butt there for the products. Yeah, I saw those reviews and I was like, oh my gosh, not everyone loves the product, obviously, and I like that you're giving it like how it is in terms of, you know, here's my reasons why I don't like it, and you kind of go over them. What has been something that you've just weren't expecting out of this channel and creating it over the years that you've had it now? What's been a benefit for you, and maybe some newfound interest to it?
Yeah, I think it's just been just like there's so much into it, whether you want to have expensive gear and have the nicest stuff for the best value, or whether you just want to get into it at a low cost. Like there's places for everybody. It's nice because like most reviews are just completely subjective, and it's like there's not a right or wrong answer on whether a grinder is good, because it's subjective to the person's in the way they're using it, whether they're using it in a home or how their kitchen's set up, or what their taste profile is and what they prefer. There's a lot of differences and a lot of different opinions, which is a great thing because it gives me a place and me a voice in the midst of people like James Hoffman, who have substantially more of a following than I do, and it gives everybody the right to kind of say what they want. But I like to be as clear as possible, and I like to like give my full opinion and give clarity, because people are kind of looking for answers on whether they should spend $600 or $700 on a grinder or whether they shouldn't. And I find a lot of people usually kind of leave it up to the viewer to decide after throwing out some information, but I like to be completely clear on I would or would not buy this product. But also it's okay if you disagree with me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And tell me a little bit about that path when you've taken in YouTube, because you say you're posting at least once weekly. What's been the struggle to keep that going here? Because I can imagine, obviously, the gear is expensive. We know that for sure. How do you kind of keep it fresh on your side of things for YouTube and IG?
Yeah, so I think it's really difficult on the realm of just the financial cost of things. I think one of the things that is difficult is people expect you to give non-biased reviews, which I believe a lot of YouTubers do give non-biased reviews. But we also need to take any free product that is given to us, because it substantially costs. So if somebody's going to offer me a $300 grinder to review on my YouTube channel, I will take that $300 grinder, review it, be completely unbiased. If I don't like it, I'm going to say it, and I have to have permission to be able to say that. But even then, it's like there's reviews I want to do that if I do them, it's going to cost me $1,200 out of pocket, unless somebody sends it to me for free to review, which a lot of cases that does not happen. So it's kind of that's kind of like the difficulty thing, is figuring out, is it worth investing money in certain things for review? Because at the end of the day, your goal is to not lose money while you're creating this stuff. You're already spending a significant amount of time. I don't want to be like out a couple $100s every single time I review a grinder on YouTube. So I think that's just the biggest challenge, is just the financial side of getting gear. And then if you're not in the spot where you're getting free gear, is just trying to be creative of what content would be beneficial with what you already have.
And I don't think people notice or even know how hard it is for YouTube personality to kind of do that, because not every company out there, and I will say this from personal speaking, I have been approached several times by bigger named corporate companies that want to work together, but then there's some rules attached to it that I just don't agree with. Some of them just want to just promote something and kind of be unbiased. And for me, I'm not here. I'm blessed enough to be in a position where I can afford some of these items. I do enjoy them on a daily basis. At the same time, I am just blessed to be able to kind of help others in a position. But for someone that's trying to grow and make this an actual like business, and I mean, my guess is that you're trying to make money off of this at some point or another, correct? I mean, besides it being fun, there is some hopeful goal to make some money.
Yeah, that would be ideal. Right now, I'm kind of just at the stage of like anything that I make, whether it's between, I have a Patreon account which sometimes gets money, other times it doesn't, and ad revenue and all that other stuff. Like I get some money from it, but almost all of it goes directly back into it.
Sure.
Is kind of where I'm at. Which, I mean, it has its pros and cons. Like I get the privilege of having and playing with expensive coffee gear and getting camera equipment and all that stuff that you need for producing YouTube videos, but that like actual profit isn't there yet. And I do hope, like, I never really expect this to be like a full-time gig in my life, but it would be nice if it would subsidize some income for the time that goes into it.
It'd be nice to get more coming in rather than going out with some of these items.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are you rocking right now in terms of your espresso machine and maybe some grinders? I know you said the SD40, very popular right now. Price wise, it's really good. I Barrett Alice on for the Christmas episode, and Barrett is very much a guy that very much likes the Turin products and the I forget which brand it is, or at least the mark, but it's just the SD40 as well as the other marks from Turin for the grinders.
Yep.
What have you found yourself like just rocking out recently, and how often do you kind of switch that out?
Yeah, so right now my main machine is the Breville dual boiler, and I have that modded with the Slayer mod so I can control flow control from it, and I use that daily because that's the only machine that I have. Well, I guess, I sold all my flares, so I currently have one on loan. But I have that with an Atom 75 by Eureka. I choose that grinder mainly because it spits out 18 grams of coffee in about 3 seconds. And then once you have that, you realize any other grinder just takes forever, it seems like.
Let me pick your brain on the 75, because I owned it. I had it for a while, and I had this conversation with Barrett as well, and we talk about the 75. Look, I'm a Eureka boy. Was a Eureka boy. I had to start it off with the Manuel, or in this case, it's just the Note Black that they were selling on Seattle Coffee Gear for some time here in the U.S. And then I switched over eventually to the 75, and I found myself just kind of like, I love it because it's cafe looking, it's commercial grade. It like you said, spits out grinds and faster than you can actually just imagine. I just found it, obviously, for my workflow. I'm single dosing. If I'm making anything, I'm making one for my wife as well. I'm not bringing in company or anything of that nature. But I just found myself just kind of struggling with it because, number one, retention was an issue. Even though I had a single dose hopper that was 3D printed with weight on there, I still found myself struggling with it. What's your kind of take with that? Because I don't know what your workflow is, and if you're making multiple coffees or just a single cup here. Yeah,
so there's a few reasons why. One, my wife drinks decaf. She can't have caffeine because of headaches. So the SD40 is just her grinder for that occasionally, and that's what we use it for. So basically, I'm the sole user of the Atom 75 in my household, and due to cost of just coffee is expensive, what I do is I buy 5-pound bag wholesales. A local dealer gave me a deal on it. So I buy 5-pound bags at a time and freeze half of it. So I'm always on one coffee for quite a while. So the changing of grind settings for coffees isn't a big deal for me,
Gotcha.
since I'm using the same bean. And I set the 1 cup dose to purge a little bit out each time to kind of help with that. But mainly it's because of convenience.
Sure.
Convenience factor. The 3 seconds is just super nice if you have people over. That makes it quite a bit nicer if you're making multiple drinks. Mainly just because I like the ease of use, lazy factor of not having to wait 20 seconds for like a niche to grind.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, it also produces one heck of a coffee too. The grind itself, I mean, these Eureka Flathead, I think it's diamond coated burrs inside of them. They are amazing. I mean, that machine is going to last you forever. You'll never outlive the burrs. I don't think you will. And even so, you have plenty of replacements and options available for them. So tell me, why didn't you like the niche? Not that now that I've had it, I'm curious because I don't know a lot of people that besides, like I said, Barrett, who's had it. He was kind of impressed with it. And then, there's a turn. I think that's the killer for a lot of people, right? The price wise. But I saw you kind of going over the niche and you're just kind of like, it's good, but is it the price that really got you, or is it just the fact that it's not as good? Because I know even Lance Hedrick, Lance is not a fan of the niche. I know that for a fact. He's made that very clear that he thinks it's overblown. I finally caved in and got the niche, and the reason for me being because I have a flat burr set. I have the Eureka Oro single dose grinder next to it. I like clarity sometimes, but I tend to find myself making more flat whites with more base coffees that are more in the realm of traditional coffee. So it's more complex rather than clarity here. But that's my flavor technique. Now, when I make pour overs, I don't even use the Oro single dose grinder anymore. In fact, I'm trying to get rid of it now. I'll be honest with you. And I've switched over completely just to I still have a fellow Ode first generation. I upgraded the burrs to the newest Ode burr sets, the second gens. And then on top of that, I just bought myself a little new toy that we'll talk about in a little while. But what has just been like the thing that's just gotten you about it? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I got the niche. Unlike Barry, I bought it for retail, and I didn't pay like the absurd markup that it was going for a while back. I can't believe he did that. So the niche in its package, it's super nice. It's super easy to use. Yeah. It's super clean looking. I don't personally like the looks of it, but that's just an opinion thing, so that doesn't make a difference.
It does look a little 70s, right? You're kind of wondering if it was on a Price is Right, it would probably be in an avocado green color at some point. It's kind of odd.
And I always had to use bellows with it. I didn't feel like it was truly zero retention.
Sure.
And I found out bellows helped quite a bit. But I came from a Baratza 270 WI, and
good machine.
I felt like the niche was being talked up too much. I just had higher expectations of what it was going to produce.
Sure.
Than what it actually came to deliver. And I found that it didn't do well for pour overs, in my opinion. It was just a little too muddied for me. And then Espresso Outlet started selling the DF64, and it's a 64 millimeter flat burr grinder. And it was $400, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
And that's $350 cheaper than the niche. And it's like, I would have much rather just bought 2 of those than one of the niches, even with its little quarts.
One for caffeine, one for decaf, right?
Yeah, exactly. But even with the little quarts that the DF64 has, it just seemed like a way better value of a grinder than the niche did.
Sure.
And I think if this was a conversation 5-6 years ago, when the niche kind of came out, it was pretty dominant in the marketplace because there wasn't anything else like it. And I think it did do a better job than the Baratza 270 WI, and that kind of limited you, and you couldn't do pour over at all. So I think it was good at its time, but I think now that it's kind of changed and new grinders have came out, at 200, like I said earlier, at $250, the SD40 isn't isn't as good as the niche, but it's not that far off for $500.
Yeah,
and it takes up half the counter space.
It does, and I want to say that the Baratza, it was kind of like the staple product to get when you were first getting into coffee. Maybe and it's just grown so fast. I want to say that Baratza was just out there, just a year ago, 2 years ago with the 270, and it was top of the line product. People were in love with it. Great product. It's shown a little bit of age now because people have kind of seen that wears out a little bit more than they expected it to. And I want to say that the niche is kind of replacing that ease of use of the Baratza in terms of what it does, because Baratza was just simple. It was just an easy to dial machine. It produced great coffee, great espresso grind, and it just made things easy. I want to say the niche kind of falls in that footsteps. Just unfortunately, even looking at the 270 right now, it's about $279, and a niche is you're right. You're paying whatever the cost of the British pound right now compared to U.S., and that changes daily. And so you're paying for that plus international travel and stuff for that product for shipping.
Yep.
So it is a costly option, and seeing that you went to the Turin, which Espresso Outlet is one of the more exclusive individuals. I know another brand that's selling it as well, but I'm you're right. It kind of depends on where you're at in terms of your coffee bar, and I would suppose that's what your aim is with your YouTube channel. IG is just kind of building up these products and saying you don't have to go that far, but if you did, you could.
Yep.
What's been the one thing that you've been enjoying so much about you doing your YouTube as well as IG?
I think of just the being able to just kind of explore all the new things that are coming out and have a reason to do it. But also I'm really starting to like the behind the scenes stuff on the more of the realm of just understanding how to use a video camera and stuff like that. So kind of that was my goal over like the last 6 months, was actually just purchase that kind of stuff. I used to film off of an iPhone and a GoPro. So getting an actual camera and just learning that was a surprising joy of YouTube that I did not really expect to kind of have. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been enjoying.
And what's been the strategy besides just obviously catering to the world of coffee and product reviews, educational? What's been the struggle right now growing and trying to kind of build up that audience? Because even me as a YouTuber, I don't sit here saying like I have 55 subscribers on YouTube. I mean, but I don't post every day. I'm not making it. IG's where I kind of live. But you're trying to make it on YouTube. What's the struggle for a YouTuber to get into that space and trying to break the market a little bit? Because it is dominated, unfortunately, by a few familiar faces. I mean, those people out there that are really just the kings of this world. There's a lot of people online that create product reviews and education, and they don't get nearly as much. And so the real question is, how are you trying to break into that?
I think one of the goals that I hope to kind of achieve in 2023 is just simply better on the editing side of things. Like if you've watched my content before, there's been moments where the audio has been terrible in a video or the video has not been great. And there's no B-roll, anything like that, which I've noticed like some of the people who have these like 100,000 subscribers that do basically the exact same thing that I do. They have those three things that I'm kind of missing in mine. And part of that was just lack of time. I didn't want to spend all the time editing and doing all that. I didn't know how to do it. Like I'm at the point now where like the equipment isn't the problem. It's more of the user error on that side of things. So I'm hoping to spend a little bit more time, and I've done a little bit more B-roll stuff now and just kind of learning how to use and produce better videos. Because I've heard, and this is not like a boastful thing or anything, but like some people like my videos better than they like some of the people that have 100,000 plus subscribers on YouTube. And vice versa. It's going to be the same other way. We just kind of approach things a little differently. But I've gotten comments saying that those are the things that are lacking for me in comparison to those, because a lot of those people, when you watch their screens, like it'll change the look of their video will change like every few seconds or so. Like it'll be a different angle, it'll be zoomed in, it'll go to B-roll.
Working with about 3 different cameras out there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can do all that stuff pretty easily with one camera. It's just taking the time to put all that stuff in your computer, wait for it to load, and click all the buttons and spend hours on it. Versus in the past couple of years of me making videos, it'd be about 15 minutes longer than the video would be my time that I would do spending making the video. So I wasn't putting a ton of time into it. Most of this time I would go up there is I wouldn't really know what I was going to say before I got into the camera, which would make me stumble over my words a little bit more. So it basically just put a camera up, walk in front of it, talk about whatever I'm talking about, and then upload it straight to YouTube and maybe put a please subscribe button somewhere on it. And that would be the extent of my editing. So I think increasing that production level on that stuff is really going to help me a lot over the year. And that in getting into, as much as I don't want to do it, like Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts is a huge way to grow.
It's a struggle. Yeah. Trust me, just trying to get one out. And I've had this conversation with several people on the show where we'll laugh about the idea that we'll spend hours and hours on one single reel, and we think it's just gorgeous, it's aesthetic, it's just visually pleasing for everyone, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh, it didn't get much love at all. And then and then one simple video you post, very rough editing, very rough everything, and all of a sudden you have like thousands of likes on that, and you're just like wondering and scratching your head, just like, what's the formula to getting all of this in? So I think a lot of that has to do with like our algorithms on Instagram and YouTube, and that's a struggle to figure out for anyone that's on YouTube. How have you kind of approached that in terms of trying to kind of keep your audience engaged with I would say with that lack of understanding the algorithm so much, and it changing almost, it seems daily. It feels like that, at least.
Yeah, I haven't done much on that realm of learning that algorithm and stuff. I just know there's one video that I made that I took a lot of production time on, and this was like a year or so ago. It got like 150 views, and then there was like the Baratza Encore one that I filmed with a shaky GoPro in one hand and didn't even know the names of the tools, got like 30,000 views, and I was like, I don't understand why this is the way it is. So I haven't done too much, but I think the main thing that I've kind of found is the videos that nobody else has do a lot better. Like if I throw a video out about the Niche Zero, you can watch about a dozen plus other ones.
It gets
probably
lost.
More than that.
It gets lost in a wash, because there's just, you put a niche and it's going to come up with thousands of posts.
Yeah, but and you'll have the bigger named people whose opinions are more important than mine, and I say that because they've actually worked in the coffee realm and know substantially more than what I know. You should listen to their opinion probably before you should listen to mine. But I've noticed that like things like the flare videos, people didn't have those when I had it. They didn't have the Baratza Encore bird change that I had. And the weirdest one is there's not as many like travel mug reviews out there as most people. Like I would expect more people to look like, oh, which $500 grinder should I buy? Because I'm about to spend $500. I want to do it right. But more people, it seems like they're interested in which $30 travel mug should I buy.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that, because I don't usually travel with coffee. When I go to work and I have to be at the office on a certain day of the week, I'll sometimes make some batch brew coffee, either Chemex pour overs of different things that I have around, and I like to share that with people at work. And that's the only time I carry coffee. But what I find myself not doing is when I'm actually driving around, and in my job, I have to drive a lot to different places, and I never take coffee with me. I just don't. I'm not the kind of person that carries a traveling mug. I like to enjoy my coffee at home. However, I just thought, well, you know what? I think it's time to change that around. And I was looking at different travel mugs, and we already had one. My wife has her fellow Carter Move mug, and and it was one of those things where I'm just like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to get something. But then I started looking at reviews, and that's how I kind of encountered you. was looking at that review about the Carter mug and what you were doing with it and your likes about it and so forth. But I finally got the Carter Move mug. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, you know, I'm glad I got it. I'm an aesthetic person, so I like white.
Okay.
And I ended up going with that because I was looking at those videos, including yours.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it does work. I mean, YouTube does work in trying to capture that audience because, I mean, I was looking specifically for travel mugs, and you're right, there aren't a lot of videos out there that have bigger named, I guess, individuals that just focus on those aspects of it, and you're kind of hitting a market where not many people kind of dive into, and maybe that's kind of like a little, excuse upon the niche, you know, where you've accessed into and worked into. Are you working on anything special right now?
Well, I got another travel mug video coming out on Friday if I assume I edit it, but I'm trying to figure out. I haven't dove too much into water, which is a big aspect while brewing. So I got a couple different water filters and things like that I'm hoping to get into a little bit more soon. And then there's been leaks coming, or not leaks, I guess it's official now from Fellow, but they're coming out with a new grinder.
Yeah.
It's been on some forums. It's a 40 millimeter conical burr grinder at I think $200 is what they're aiming for, which is going to be really interesting. So I'm going to pick that up in when it comes out, which should be in the next couple months, and put that next to the SD40.
The conical's coming back, isn't it?
Yeah, which, I mean, for $200 to get into like an electric grinder for espresso is just shocking.
In fact, I think the only brand and the only espresso grinder you can get that's kind of like espresso as well as pour over is probably the Breville Smart Grinder. I think starts at around $199. You can find it much cheaper depending if you have coupons or anything like that. But I think that's probably like a good entry point unless you're going into like some hand grinds, and you can get the Easy Prezzo, which is, you know, not relatively cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than maybe going with you know, the Niche or even the Turin, because that's about $150 less. But yeah, it's an interesting market that's kind of growing out there, and I'm looking forward to seeing you kind of do more of those reviews and more of these travel ones. I like that, and the idea of water, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm excited for that because it's like once we figure out kind of which one's the best kind of go-to conical burr that's under that 250 range between the Breville, the SD40, and the Fellow, like for under $400 you can get a flare and an electric burr grinder, and that's a pretty good setup for basically anybody at home. Like, you really don't need that much more than that unless you're making milk drinks. Everybody wants more than that, but you really don't need much more than
you don't.
A couple $100 manual espresso machine. You should be all right for most things.
And I agree with you. I sometimes think to myself, I said, look, I could get the Baby Bambino from Breville, have a decent grinder, and I'd be producing the same exact coffee than I am right now, and I would have spent a fraction, half of that with that setup. But something about this just makes me happy.
Oh yeah,
it's like a little joy.
Yeah, seeing those like expensive, like $3,000-$5,000 espresso machines, like it would look really cool, but like the marginally better shots that you'd get versus
and it's
$1,000.
Yeah, and it's minute. And for anyone that's in this, and if you just don't have coffee on a routine basis, you don't care. You're not going to be pulling shots of a geisha or anything specific like that. You're going to probably just have some cheap beans, and supporting a local roaster. That's the hope, at least, and just making better coffee than being, getting store-bought coffee. And God knows what the actual date of roastering was on that coffee. But it is an amazing world we live in. So where do you find yourself? Hopefully finding yourself, Nathan, starting January 2024. Where do you hope to be? Because it's just started the year. We got a whole lot of resolutions, a whole lot of ideas that we have. Where do you hope to be in 1 year's time?
Well, I hope to just have a better grasp on the production side of things. I've been debating a lot on whether I'm going to jump will continue in the coffee ship, but jump into a roasting side of it. But that's a whole nother can of worms that I don't know if it's worth getting into or not getting into. I'm doing some work like on the side for Espresso Outlet, and they stock they're stocking a couple different roasters here soon. So I'm debating on if I want to jump in and get in that market, and learn and understand and do some videos regarding home roasting. I've done, I think maybe one like a long time ago, but that was on a popcorn popper, so it barely counts as roasting. So just kind of learning and continuing to grow in it. But I think roasting could be a potential like doorway to open up more funds to put into videos, since roasting is going to cut the cost back from like $20 a bag of beans to like $5.
Oh yeah, it completely shifts.
It's
the game.
huge, but there's definitely
really
a lot of learning into it. And as much as like far down the rabbit hole you can go on under home brewing, I have a feeling roasting's way worse of a rabbit hole of just how much things can change by 1 degree and learning and discovering that. But I think that could be a direction that I'm hoping to be at maybe by then.
Absolutely.
Of just being able to provide a little bit more sustainability, since like when you do a YouTube channel, you go through way more coffee than you should. Because there's moments where it's like I did a bunch of different electric grinders a few months back, and that means I had to grind multiple shots for every single one of those electric grinders to figure out which one tastes better, which means you take one sip of it or so and then basically pour it down the drain. And that burns through a lot of coffee, dialing in these grinders and testing all those things. So home roasting could potentially unlock the opportunity to save some money on that realm of things. Because I will go through a whole 5-pound bag a month by myself, typically.
I think you got a problem there, Nathan. I think
it's a lot.
I've always wondered if there's a like an Alcoholics Anonymous, but for caffeine usage from us for coffee.
It's super bizarre though, because I can just not drink any coffee for a week and be perfectly fine.
This is true. I know people say it's like, oh, you drink a lot, and like, not really. I have maybe 2 cups of coffee a day, and sometimes I'll have coffee right before bed, and I'll sleep like a baby. I have no problem with it, as compared to some people where cup of coffee and that's it. You know, they're a little rocket that just goes off here. It's always amazing. But Nathan, I am so happy you've joined us and talked about your passion for what you're doing and everything that's going on with the channel on IG as well as on YouTube. Where can people find you?
You can find me on, like you said, Instagram and YouTube at Cabeens Coffee Corner. It's the same for both. Currently, it's a little white logo with a tamper on it, but that's subject to change at some point. But that's where we're at now. It probably will be for the next few months.
Nathan, I am so happy we had you on, and can't wait to see more coming up from you this year. And hopefully you're at that goal in 2024. We'll bring you back on to talk about all those things in the future.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you so much, Nathan. Hang on there. And don't forget to subscribe to Everything Coffee on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts, and follow us on Instagram at everything.coffee.podcast. Check out our website at everythingcoffee.podbean.com. And thank you for listening and doing your part in supporting businesses around your city and around the world.